Hello, everybody, and happy monstering. I just wanted to give a little test to see if everybody can hear me. So I'm just going to check out the AMA chat because we want to get started soon, and it looks like people can hear us. So this is great. We thank you for your patience. As many of you have noticed, it seems like Discord's having a bit of some issues right now. So we were just working through that. So just give me 1 second and we will get started. I'm just going to mute myself real quick and get some stuff in order. I'll be speaking with you in just a minute. Okay, so you might not know me. I'm a newer monster handler. My name's Sean. I'm very happy to meet everybody. I'm going to be hosting this AMA session. So I just want to quickly go through a bit of an introduction to what this is and how it might work, and then we can just get going from there. So obviously today we're very excited to be holding this Ask Me Anything session live in this Ockulo Grove group. Everyone's been super helpful. We have our monster handlers, Eric, Matt, Mike, you know them all. They're here and they're ready to talk about all things My Singing Monsters. We've recently announced the board game Kickstarter that's coming up very shortly in a few days. We hope to see some backers there. We recently announced Playground, which is going to be very exciting to play with your friends or by yourself. And of course, we're ready to talk about anything else more of the regular kind of My Singing Monsters, so to speak, experience. Obviously, some things we can't go really into are things such as account issues. We can't really cover that here. If you're having any issues with your account, just contact our support staff and they'll be happy to help you out. Um, I'd also like to mention that we would like to get to all of you, but time permitting, we only have enough time to answer so many questions. The monster handlers are always hard at work handling the monsters, so we'll try to get to everybody the best that we can. Now, just to talk quickly about how to participate, as you'll see on the bottom of this stage, there's a little button that shows like a raised hand. It's the request to speak button. If you have a question for us, simply hit the request to speak button, and then we will see that, and then we'll invite you to speak once we can. Once you have been invited to speak, you'll see a little green bar at the upper hand of your Discord screen. You'll have to accept that, and then you go ahead, ask us our question. We'll do our best to answer it and then move on to the next fan. So just a second here. So we already have a whole bunch of people requesting to speak with their questions, which is very cool and exciting. I did want to disclaim before we started actually talking to you that we do plan on recording this. It might go up on YouTube or something like that. So just be aware if you have any privacy issues about appearing through voice on such a channel as YouTube, then that is what we are doing. So thank you for understanding. And yeah, I don't know. Do the monster handlers want to say anything before we dive into the questions?
I would like to say, how come you guys all have these fancy shields and I don't? I don't understand why nobody wants to give me a fancy shield. But
Monster Handler,
Monster
Handler Mike, I was about to say the exact same thing. I don't see a shield for myself. So what I think is happening
Really?
is we can see everyone else's shields other than our own.
Okay,
So
that makes more sense.
It's a level playing field here. So yeah, thank you so much.
Feel any better? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say thank you to Monster Handler Sean for that great introduction. Very excited to be here, and hi, Monster Handlers Eric and Michael as well. Here we all are again.
Together again. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful.
Are we all excited to answer some questions? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, let's give this a shot then. Our first request to speak is up from Mattis Man. You've been invited to speak, so once you get that invite, please accept, and then you can ask your question. If we don't hear from you soon, then we'll probably just move on to our next fan question. So we'll just wait a minute for Mattis Man to respond.
And just if you're wondering why Monster Handler Eric may not be speaking, is he's having issues with his mic, so he's fixing that. He is still here.
Mike is having no issues with his mic, but Eric is having issues with Mike.
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
an HR thing. We need to talk about that. If Eric is having issues with Mike, then we just want to make sure there's a peaceful resolution here.
Yes, of course.
Hi. What can we?
Hi, MSM.
Oh, hi. What can we be expecting with Dawn of Fire in the future?
Great question. Matt,
So the
would
question-
you like to?
Sure. So the question from Mattisman, and thank you for asking the question, is what can we expect from Dawn of Fire in the future? Great question. Obviously, with this being the year of the monster, we've got several different meals being cooked all at once. Obviously, we've announced all sorts of exciting initiatives this particular year. Obviously, as Monster Handler Sean mentioned, we've got My Singing Monsters Playground coming out later this year. We've got the My Singing Monsters, the board game that we've been working on. And of course, at the same time, we have been committed to continuing support for My Singing Monsters and My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire. With respect to what you can expect later this year from Dawn of Fire, we are continuing to delve deep into the Prism Gate and discover new and fanciful variations of your favorite monsters. At this point in time, I can't disclose any more information. That is some under wraps stuff in terms of Dawn of Fire, but I would say stay tuned, and we'll see what the rest of the year will bring.
Excellent. Thank you, Mattisman.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Our next question comes in from Gob or Job. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. So we're just waiting for you to accept. Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
What question do you have for the monster handlers?
Sorry, I understand English.
That's okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
If you're having issues with your mic as well, you can also. Oh, I bounced out. Am I still here? Yes, I'm still here. You can also leave your question in the AMA chat. I think Sean said that as well. So if you're having issues with the mic.
Okay, unfortunately, it looks like you are having some issues. Feel free to submit your question. I'll keep an eye out for it in the AMA chat, or you can send it my way in a DM, and we'll try and get it out there for you. In the meantime, we'll just move on to our next speaker, which is Quibop. Quibop, you've been invited to speak. We're excited to hear what your question might be. Hello.
All right, so, sorry to talk over you. My question is, where does all the water around SummerSong Earth Island come from, and where does it go when SummerSong ends?
Ooh, great Lord.
A wonderful question.
For you, Matthew,
Wonderful.
you're great here.
I'm happy to respond to this question. Yes, Quibop. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Quibop. My apologies. So, Quibop, it's a great question. What's interesting about the water that surrounds Earth Island is that it is, in fact, always there. Among the natural islands, Earth Island is definitely sort of a low-sitting one as far as the living ocean is concerned. And it's actually always there. It's just Earth Island is typically surrounded by sort of a miasma of dense volcanic fog and very humid air. So it's sort of like...
So, like, it hides the water.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it clears up during SummerSong.
You got it. Yes, the healing summery energies of Hula and its yacht and its little schooner help the sunshine shine through.
All right.
Great. Thank you for the question.
Great
I love
question.
the lore questions, by the way. Keep them coming.
Yes.
Especially because then Monster Handler Matt is the person to go to, you know, the expert in all things monsters.
Yes.
Yeah, plenty of questions coming in. We have a nice big queue of 50 plus.
54!
So,
Woo! Oh,
yeah, it's
my.
very exciting. Abyssbro,
excited.
you're up next. And I'm sorry, I've heard that there's some white noise in my background. So I'm gonna keep myself
Hello,
muted if that
hello.
comes up.
Does my mic work? Hello.
Yep.
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
we can hear
Yes.
you.
Yes, it works. All right. My question. Okay, so my question is, once the castles get too crowded because of the fire epics and the magical rares and stuff, will we see the return of the unused crystals from Dawn of Fire, like the Pyrozite and the Outer Island crystals for the crystalline castles?
Very interesting.
An excellent question, Abyssbro. You are absolutely correct that there are a few crystal deposits out there in the monster world that aren't yet accounted for. Obviously, with the populations growing on the fire and magical islands with the discovery of new monster classes like rare magicals and epic fire monsters, you're right, things are going to start getting a little crowded. It is my expectation that the monsters will pool their mineralogical resources and acumen to try and figure out where those missing deposits of pyrozite went, specifically for the fire islands. And with respect to the magical islands, you're right that there are unique crystal deposits on each of those islands, but right now we don't necessarily have a specific plan for how those are going to make their official canon appearance in the monster world. Obviously, from a behind-the-scenes standpoint, there were crystals planned for each of the outer islands, and I can announce the names of those here, at least for the first 3 outer islands that were released. Space Island's unique crystal was Nebulox. Sounds a lot like Nebula, but no relation. Next up, Cloud Islands was Auroreum, and then Cave Islands was Quarritz, sort of like quartz combined with a quarry sort of vibe. We don't know necessarily if Party Island has its own crystal due to the distinct nature of Party Island, the fact that it's on the back of a glove pole sort of thing. Is there any time for crystals to form sort of thing? But it's a great question, and it certainly proves that you know what you're talking about, Abyssbro. So we'll have to see what the future will bring. I would certainly like for those unused crystals that have not yet made their official appearance to debut at some point. Don't know if it'll be this year or next year, but I guess we'll have to stay tuned.
All right. Thank you, guys. Happy monstering. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Happy monstering. Thank you. Just a second. One of the server admins, actually, who has been very helpful in getting all of this organized and everything, has a question. That's Cloudy, who I've just invited to speak, and we're very happy to talk to.
Thank you, Cloudy.
Hello?
Yes, by the way, thank you. Hello, we can hear you. Thank you for helping get this organized, you and all the admins on this server. We've been very happy to work with you all. So yeah, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so my question is, will there ever be like a big update to the Composer app? Because I have tried numerous times to recreate songs in the Composer app, and it's like very limited with the amount of monsters we have, so it's like kind of difficult to recreate songs.
Thank you for your question, Cloudy. Definitely appreciate where you're coming from in terms of the limitations of the My Singing Monsters Composer app. We like to. My Singing Monsters Composer is an interesting experience because we wanted to make sure that we didn't overwhelm people with too many options. That part of the creative process of the app is actually like taking full advantage of and making use of the different instruments that you have at your disposal. Sort of like the way that if you have a trumpet, you can create a slightly different sound if you put like a mute at the end of the bell sort of thing. So it's sort of about the creative application of what you're working with. right now, My Singing Monsters Composer is not at the top of our list in terms of things that we're paying attention to in the Year of the Monster this year, just because, as has been mentioned before, we've got so many new projects that we're spooling up right now, and that we want to make sure that we do an excellent job of, like My Singing Monsters the board game and My Singing Monsters Playground. But of course, as far as Composer is concerned, we are continuing to support it and make sure that if anyone has any issues with it, please write in to support. Obviously, a couple of times a year, or at least once a year, we do like also to throw a little discount on it. Typically, that aligns with anniversary month. So obviously, it's only just the end of May now, but keep an eye out for that in September. And obviously, it would be our sincere hope that at one point we have an opportunity to incorporate some of the composer sounds that have been created specifically for the seasonal monsters for use in My Singing Monsters in battle mode in the Colossingum. We would like to bring that at some point to Composer, but don't yet have a timeline for that. That's more of a wish list item for us right now because we have so much on our dockets. But we hear you, Cloudy, and thank you for your question. It's good to know that that app is beloved and that people still think about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cloudy. Okay, great. Next up, we have a question from Rebecca the Rebegart, which is a great name. You've been. Oh, here we go. You have joined us.
Quick to accept. I like it.
Hello? You're a bit quiet. Unfortunately, I'm having trouble hearing Rebecca. How about the rest of the monster handlers?
Yeah, coming in a little tad quiet.
I'm gonna try my best though.
There, yeah, I can hear you there.
Alrighty. It has to be My Singing Monsters Playground. Okay. So about the My Singing Monsters Playground, will we see some more monsters in the future as the game progresses, or just we're gonna have a small amount of characters that we're gonna see? Also, I hope because it's gonna be okay with,
Excellent. So I think I'll try and repeat just in case you didn't, if people weren't able to hear. And yeah, so Rebecca asked, are we going to see more monsters in My Singing Monsters Playground? Or is it going to be a, just what has been shown? And I think, and on that front, there are still some monsters that will make their appearance, and some monsters may make an appearance not as playable characters, but in the game in other ways. But yeah, that is something that we will be announcing probably not too long from now. We'll be doing kind of a reveal of who all of the playable characters will be. And so when we do that, I think that all the ones that we've selected for the playable characters are a good selection of people. And obviously, you've seen some of the characters that'll be in the game. I am, of course, happy that Pango was able to get in there. But yeah, so that is there is going to be more that will be coming, and yeah, we're excited to show those.
All right, thank you. Happy monstering.
Thank you.
Happy monstering. Thank you. Just a second. We have lots more questions coming in. We're gonna move over to Foxy, who's up next. Foxy, I've been invited to speak. Hello,
Foxy.
Yep.
Oh, yep, you're good.
Hi. I might be a bit loud, I don't know. New headset.
Oh, you're good. Coming in crystal clear for me.
Thank you. Anyways, my question is, will we ever see rare Wubbox on Ethereal Island?
Foxy, thank you for your question. Obviously, there does appear to be something of a spot left at the table for rare Wubbox on Ethereal Island, especially since, to our knowledge, all rare forms of the monsters that would be required for a rare Wubbox on Ethereal Island have been discovered. Earlier this year, when we released our update that brought the Star Shop to both Ethereal Island and Sugarbush Island, we made sort of an offhand remark that potentially the populations of those islands would be growing. And to my knowledge, that particular promise has gone. It wasn't a promise. It was a clue. It was a hint, and to this date has gone unfulfilled. But there's still 7 months left of Year of the Monster, during which just about anything can happen. Now, of course, mind you, the presence of Wubbox on Ethereal Island in the first place is a very confusing one for us monster handlers, just based on what we know about Wubbox and its relationship to the natural elements, it being a supernatural monster, and the proposed super ethereal class that comes part and parcel with the presence of Wubbox on Ethereal Island and in the pocket dimension in the first place. So there might be a few mysteries that are unraveled around the same time, if and when a rare Wubbox does make its way to the pocket dimension on Ethereal Island. So my advice to you, Foxy, would be to stay tuned.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you, Foxy. And I
Great
love
monster,
that
and I'll be on the hunt for this Plinkaju.
Excellent. I like that Foxy's avatar was waving. It was animated. It was very cute.
We need to get animated. Well, we need to animate our monster handler faces.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, we do have that from back in the old My Singing Monsters live days.
Well, I don't think that's in the budget, Monster Handler, Mike. I don't think we can animate them. I don't know.
Okay.
I think we might be able to make that change down the line.
I
Yes,
have
who's next?
invited Hydroquake to speak. Hydroquake. Or King Aloe. Wait,
Got
sorry.
two.
Hydroquake.
There we go. Hydroquake.
We can.
Okay, great. So hi.
Hello.
I'm wondering if you're planning on bringing the collect all button to the first My Singing Monsters game.
Highly requested feature, Matthew.
Very requested feature, Matt. What do you got for us?
The question on everyone's minds. Collect all. Will it make its way to My Singing Monsters? So, when Collect All was first added to Dawn of Fire, it was something that we were doing experimentally, and something that we thought made sense with the 2.0 change that we brought to Dawn of Fire, which imported some of the mechanics from My Singing Monsters that people know and love, namely that monsters generate currencies, specifically coins, of course, in Dawn of Fire. And of course, there are far fewer islands in Dawn of Fire than there are in My Singing Monsters. So with respect to the future of Collect All in a certain first title of My Singing Monsters, I think that there are still a few technical considerations that we'd have to make in order to make sure that we're able to accomplish that in a satisfactory way from a user experience standpoint. Hydroquake, obviously, when we hear people making requests for features, it's always our intention to listen to those and to make sure that we explore all avenues of bringing that feature to the game. But of course, sometimes that's possible, sometimes that's not possible. So At this point, I don't want to make any promises or disappoint anyone about the future of Collect All in My Singing Monsters, but I will say the following, that we definitely hear you, that it is a much requested feature. And just like castle upgrades,
What I was just gonna say is castle
and
upgrades,
just like castle
right?
upgrades, you know, like that was definitely heard by us monster handlers for a long time. And you know, it took us a while to iron out all the kinks and to make sure that we were able to bring that in a satisfactory way to the gaming experience. But don't worry, we're always listening to the things that you say, and we're always balancing that against what we are able to do from a technical standpoint, and making sure that we can guarantee a positive and stable gaming experience. So no news on that front as of this particular AMA, but we hear you, and we're toiling behind the scenes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, HydroQuake. Great question, and like we said at the beginning, it's definitely feedback that we've heard much of, so thank you, Monster Handler Matt. We got lots more questions coming in. This is from a familiar face. You might know Matthew the Bogart, who's been invited to speak and ask a question.
All right. I don't know if this is the right question to ask to you guys, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. So, have you guys ever considered releasing an instrumental version of the Fandemonium song, or karaoke, whatever you call it? I personally call it instrumental.
Interesting. I don't think I have seen any talk of that, but I feel like that's one of those things that if that's something that people want, you know, I think we have the capabilities to investigate that, and I could see that being something that we could potentially put out there. How we put it out there, you know, that's one thing to figure out, because I know right now the Fandemonium song lives on YouTube, but that, as you said, is not the instrumental one. So
yeah, maybe you could just release it through YouTube.
Yeah.
Or any other music platform.
Yeah, or you know what, like who knows, maybe one day if we were ever to release a volume 2 or something like that of the soundtrack, which I know people are always asking about, maybe that's something also where it could potentially live there. And then I know, of course, Matt, you are always trying to fill the jukebox with anything you can related.
Yes, of course. The Fandemonium tune was added to the jukebox at the end of April, but of course, Matthew the Bogart's question is all about a karaoke instrumental version. Now, of course, part of the cool experience of Fandemonium was being able to work with our partners at Wind, Sun, Sky, and they were the ones who really helped bring the Fandemonium track to life. It was a really interesting and rewarding creative process working with them to bring that to life. So obviously, you know, we aren't strangers. We're still chatting with the fine folks over at Wind, Sun, Sky. So maybe we'll toss them a line and see what sort of things we can get up to as far as Fandemonium is concerned.
All right. Oh, sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, I said for sure, and I know at the beginning you said I don't know if this is the right question, but there's no wrong question, and great, like look, you brought that up, and now that it's something that we can go look into. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to do these kind of interactions directly with the community, kind of like we did back in the day with MSM Live.
All right. Well, thanks for answering the question.
You're welcome.
Thanks for stopping in.
And thank you, and happy monstering.
Happy
monstering.
Hey, Eric.
Is the monster handler Eric here?
I've been here the whole time.
Of course. I saw your little green box light up, so I knew you were here now.
Maybe our
classic monster handler, Eric.
Yes.
Maybe our next question can be handled by Monster Handler Eric. Let's see who we got here. We have Quinn is next in line. Quinn or Quinkles, you've been invited to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear.
All right. Hello, monster handlers. I was sort of intrigued by monster bios like Rare T-Rox or Rare Kayna, who are sort of from long ago, and I was wondering if we'd ever get information about maybe how the monsters came into existence, or how the Celestials or the Colossals have to do with that, or just any sort of lore stuff before the Dawn of Fire game, if we'll get information about that.
Good question.
Take it away, Monster Handler Eric. I tease.
Maybe.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that was my answer. Maybe.
Maybe. Oh yes. What a thorough answer. It's a great question, Quinn. Certainly from a genesis of the monster world standpoint, we do have a few findings. We do have sort of an internal chronology of what sort of things take place and when, even before the events of the formation of the continent and of the period of time known as the Dawn of Fire. Right now, we're sort of keeping that information close to our chests, just in case it's something that we want to explore in a more complete way in the future. But I can confirm one particular interesting detail that it's not actually a new detail, but it's one that bears repeating. And it's alluded to in many of the bios of the celestial monsters specifically, that many of those monsters, their appearance on the scene happens at the same time as basically the birth of this universe, of the Big Blue Bubble multiverse itself. So I can confirm, and perhaps this will come as some surprise to people, that Celestials, the 12 Celestials, are actually older than the Colossals themselves. And this might be a surprise to people. It may be something that people already know based on dredging through the dribs and drabs, the pieces of information sort of tucked away in the celestial bios themselves. But that's, I think, an interesting detail to keep in mind as we consider those very early days of the monster world and its formation.
All right, very interesting. Thank you. And happy monstering.
Happy monstering.
Happy monstering.
All right. Okay, so I did want to lay out, we did plan on this going for about a full hour or so, and we've got lots more questions coming in, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to get to everybody, but again, like I may have mentioned at the beginning, we do hope to probably do similar events in the future, so just hold on to your questions if we can't get to you today. Thank you very much for your time. Our next question does come in from Pete Boy. Pete Boy, you've been invited to speak.
Hello, Pete Boy.
Okay. So, are there going to be more islands with the magical elements in the future, or?
Good question. Good question.
Pete Boy, yours is a loaded question. Only because we were being cheeky monster handlers when we announced that Light Island was going to be the last magical island. And then, of course, the following year we released Magical Sanctum. When we released Magical Sanctum, we made a conscious choice to not just call it Magical Island, because we wanted to make sure that there was a distinction between the 4 magical islands that existed and this island, which is its own sort of thing, right? It's its own unique experience, especially because we had been using the term magical island in the game for over a year at that point to describe a specific kind of island where natural and fire and magical monsters all interact. And with Sanctum, it's obviously its own unique experience where exclusively magical monsters call it their habitat. So, at least as of right now, as of this AMA, the magical element definitely lives primarily on those 5 islands, on Psychic, on Fairy, on Bone, on Light, and on Sanctum itself. But of course, the nature of the magical element itself is very unusual because they are among the newest elements to exist in the monster world. Several of the older elements, especially those belonging to the 12 celestial monsters, are sort of understood by us to be founding elements of the universe itself, and the magical elements are sort of newcomers. They're sort of new on the scene, so their specific characteristics and how they interact with the other elements haven't been fully studied by us yet. So at least as of right now, the ongoing discovery of new pure magical monsters, as we sort of loosely like to call them, on Magical Sanctum for us is sort of wrapping up the magical chapter for now. That's not to say that there isn't more to discover out there, and that there aren't new ways for magical monsters to find their way across the monster world. So as of right now, we're sort of focusing on fleshing out the magical populations of those 5 islands, obviously with monsters as recently discovered as Mushaboom just yesterday, and that's an ongoing process. So as of right now, we'll see, but no promises. If there's anything I know about the magical class itself, is that it's very unpredictable. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, Pete Boy.
Okay, thank you. Happy monstering.
Happy monstering.
I do have a question from the chat, actually, from Pico, who wanted to ask this. Probably another good one for you, Monster Handler Matt. Are fire monsters, are they ever going to come to Colossingum?
A wonderful question. I don't really know. What's sort of interesting about the Colossingum and Tribal Island, for that matter, is that they sort of feel like both of them are responses to there's sort of separate strategies on how to protect the monster world in one sense, to sort of like train oneself up, you know, to be the best singer that you can be, because obviously singing in the monster world is sort of like a unit of energy in and of itself. It's sort of like how in Monsters Inc., how first scream energy and then later laughter energy sort of represent what life is all about in that particular dimension. So singing as a power, as an innate thing that can you know, bring smiles to faces, that can lift one's spirit, sort of thing, is a really powerful thing. And it's notable that there's no fire element on Tribal Island either, except, of course, notably the mysterious monster trapped in amber, which of course is revealed to be Kayna. But that's sort of the only exception. I'm not really sure if either from a lore or a game mechanics standpoint, if the fire element will ever make its way to the Colossingum. At least for right now, we are obviously committed to continuing to explore the relationships that seasonal monsters have with the Colossingum. We've had Yule, we've had Schmoochel, we've had Blabbit, all make different forays to the Colossingum, and of course there are a few other monsters waiting to have their due on the Colossingum as well. So I think before we can start to consider other classes of monsters moving in and finding a home for themselves on the Colossingum, we're going to try and close the book on that particular class first.
Great. I hope that answers your question, Pico. Can we get a happy monstering for Pico?
Happy monster.
Happy monster.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, we got another question coming in from another familiar face. He may have heard of Nathan Games from over on YouTube there. So Nathan, you've been you've been invited to speak. Go ahead with your question.
Will there be online multiplayer in MSM Playground?
That is a great question. I like how you just boom right to the point. So with MSM Playground, as I believe it's in the details on the game page for it, but it is going to feature local multiplayer for 1 to 4, and then single player, as we've mentioned before. And that's just the direction that we wanted to take with it. But you know, as we always say, definitely always listening to people's feedback and what they want and like and all those things. So yes, it will be launching with local multiplayer only.
Okay, thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Okay, we got tons more questions. Again, I'm sorry that we won't be able to get to everybody, but I'm just going to make my way down the list here. We got, let's see here. We have Star or Starburst Clownfish, which is another great name. You've been invited to speak.
Is my mic okay? Can you guys hear me?
Sorry? Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Sounds good. All right, so I've been preparing this question for a little while, and it's a bit of a complex one, but I'll try to explain it as simple as possible. So, when we saw the Magical Sanctum trailer, Pocket Dial, as I recall, there were these weird gas statues, and we never really got an explanation on why they were there. But somehow, a ghast, an ethereal monster, has statues of it that open the door to a magical element place. And that got me thinking, what if the Magicals and Ethereals are connected somehow? Whether it be breeding coming from, I don't know, maybe the same creator or whatever? That could possibly be a thing. And also, I've noticed that a lot of keen-eyed community members have seen that some of the magical monsters bear some resemblance to some other familiar singing monsters, whether it be Zeester looking a bit like Ghast, and Fronley looking like a particular water element monster that goes doo-wop. So, yeah, do you guys know what that's all about?
Holy moly, Star. There's lots to unpack in this particular. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to answer to the best of my monster handler ability. So, we've mentioned in the past that the Ethereal Meadow, which is sort of the code name that we gave to that particular area of Ethereal Island where the ghast statues exist, is a place that is subject to interdimensional crossover. That's why there are pieces of the same mountain that forms the mountain morsel, which hails from the Thumpyverse there. It's why it sort of serves as a nexus point for connecting different dimensions of the monster world together in the first place. What our understanding of what happened in Pocket Dial is, because of course we do our best to report as unbiasedly as possible and try and speak the truth. What we understand happened in the Pocket Dial trailer is that the Titan who would be colossal, whose name we now know to be Enchantler, that particular Titan was looking to build out a magical family, and so harnessed in some way the interdimensional potential of those ghast statues to basically call upon the single element magicals to join it in the pocket dimension. And that's why we called the video Pocket. And that's why we called the video Pocket Dial, because we had it in our minds that Titan, that Enchantler, was dialing the 4 magical single element monsters, Theramine, Clacula, Flute Fly, and Fluoresce, where it was dialing them and saying, hey, come on over. I've got this awesome place for you to live apart from your homes on the magical islands. Now, the second part. So the second part of your question was there have been some resemblances between certain monsters on Magical Sanctum and monsters elsewhere in the monster world. This has been very enjoyable for us monster handlers to watch, but I can reveal a certain detail that might come as a surprise to some and probably won't to others now that we've discovered quite a few species on Magical Sanctum. The only monster that from the early design standpoint, we knew for sure we wanted a relationship with an existing monster from like a background and sort of genetics ancestry standpoint was Ghast with Zister. Obviously, many people have compared fondly to Toejammer, and even as we were designing that monster, we thought, yeah, those toes certainly look recognizable, and with Knucklehead, it sort of reminds us of Noggin. I can reveal that Knucklehead is actually an unused Dawn of Fire monster design that we wanted to give a second lease on life to, but that the comparisons that other members of the community have been making between the other monsters were not necessarily planned. We do like the fact that several aspects of these monsters share core traits with single element monsters. For us, it's sort of a way of hearkening back to sort of the building blocks of the monster world itself. But I can confirm from a planning standpoint that a lot of that has just sort of been circumstantial, not necessarily part of a master plan from the monster handlers. And that's why with each new monster that's been discovered, like Larvalus, like Mushaboom, like Kahoot, those monsters, they're harder and harder to place of like, okay, well, which single element monster is this based on? It's because they're not actually specifically based on any of them. So there you go, debunked.
So, two things I just wanted to quickly touch on about your answers that you gave. So, now the whole thing with Enchantler kind of makes sense, and who knows, it possibly could have even built those gas statues. But now I kind of see it as almost like a lonely mother wanting to search out, like children to take care of, to take under her wing.
Yeah,
like it's like she's traveling and she wants to care.
I certainly feel that, I certainly feel like Enchantler, much like Wubbox was trying to build out its supernatural family with the development of the Wublins.
Oh yes, with the Wublins.
Monsters, monsters crave companionship because music works best when several people are playing all at once. Thank you for your questions, Star. They were very thoughtful, and hopefully they will be of interest to members of the community.
It was very insightful. It is interesting to me, so I don't know if that counts.
It does count.
Great.
Who do we got next?
We have actually, Have. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. We have. Go ahead.
All right, this is amazing for me to speak, but I was just wondering, this has been on my mind for a while, but will there ever be sort of a re-release of the game that could possibly be like a paid version of the game where it comes with more features and easier diamond collecting? And while this is kind of like a side question, but will there be a purchase bonus for My Singing Monsters if you buy Playground?
I can answer the first part there, maybe Stu, and then if you want to answer, or I can answer the second part there. Sorry, and then if you want, you can answer the first part. I don't think we have the capability to necessarily have some sort of in-game bonus that connects to Playground specifically, just because of the way it's distributed through the different stores. However, like if My Singing Monsters had have been on those stores, then I think there could potentially be something we do there, but because it doesn't exist, there's not really an easy way to see or have like a connected bonus from your purchase of Playground to My Singing Monsters, the core game. But yes, I'll let you take over the other one, Matt.
Yeah, it's a good question, Have, just because of course there were codes, for example, in the Singing Figures toys that we created, but the nature of Playground and the platforms that we're partnering with in order to bring this game to life, they're just different sort of considerations that we have to make in order to make sure that we comply with all of their rules and stuff like that. So that's not to say that we might not celebrate the release of My Singing Monsters Playground in My Singing Monsters in a cool way. I know that that's something that we're currently talking about, exploring some cool ideas. Again, no promises yet about what that might be, but it is obviously going to be a landmark moment in the history of My Singing Monsters, and so we're going to want to celebrate that in as big a way as possible. With respect to your first question, have a paid version of My Singing Monsters where some of the free-to-play aspects of the game are made a little bit easier. No, it's not necessarily something that we've ever considered. Part of our mission with My Singing Monsters is to make it accessible and enjoyable to the maximum number of people possible, and for that reason, the free-to-play model has obviously worked the best for us. In order to make that accessible to as many people as possible, and something that we've prided ourselves on over the history of the game as well is that obviously for those players that have made purchases in our purchases of currencies or of island skins, of stuff like that, we obviously appreciate your support. The Monster Handlers couldn't do it without you, but something that we've tried to keep in the back of our minds as we continue developing My Singing Monsters is making sure that for those committed players, for those players that are super engaged and that log in every day, that you do have an opportunity to collect everything that you want for free, provided you have enough patience and love of the game to stick with us, and we know that many of you have, so we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I kind of brought up that question mostly because I was thinking about like the 3DS game Pokemon Rumble World, how like it's normally on the eShop there's a free version of the game that's much slower, but there's a physical paid version which would be much easier to progress in, or things like Apple Arcade where some games have plus versions of them that whether they sometimes have more features in them or have all the DLC in them already purchased.
Definitely an interesting idea. Yeah, as Michael said, it's always something that when you tell us these ideas, we're always listening.
Yep. All right, thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. We're also kind of running out of time here. We still have lots
I'm
of questions.
I'm gonna make a proposal, Sean. Because
Please.
we were like 5 minutes late starting. I say we do a 5-minute extension at least, just to give people their full hour.
I think that
I
makes a lot
second
of
this
sense.
motion.
Okay, motion passed.
I stand in
Without
violent
that-
opposition. No, I'm kidding. I obviously support this as
Democracy
well.
rules. Okay, we got who we got next? Smugbox, you've been invited to speak. Let's try and get those questions and get them answered. Hello.
Well, hello there, monster handlers. Anyway, I was thinking lately, what if there was an epic Wubbox?
That'd be pretty.
End of question. Smugbox is definitely a good question for you to be asking, given both your profile picture and your username, at least for this particular chat. Definitely an interesting question, the idea of the epic Wubbox. Certainly, the relationship between rare Wubbox and common Wubbox from a storyline standpoint is that Rare Wubbox is sort of a common Wubbox that had a penchant for traveling around not just the monster world, but outside of the monster world itself, and sort of reconstituted itself in its own new image. I don't know what sort of ideas would prompt the formation of an epic Wubbox itself. Would that come about the same way that Rare Wubbox did? Would it be something different? How precisely would it work? Would it work the same way as a Rare Wubbox, and that it requires epic monsters to be boxed? Very interesting notion. Food for thought for us monster handlers. Indeed.
It's always helpful to get these kind of questions that get us thinking as well. So thank you. On to our next question from Yesbox. Yesbox, you've been invited to speak. Let's just give it a minute here. There is Yesbox.
Hello, so can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. So I'm so glad you're able to talk to you. But my question is about the Mythicals. So will they get their own island, or at least go on other islands?
Will they get so just to repeat the question in case anybody didn't hear it, the question was about the Mythicals and whether they would get their own island. Yeah, Matt, would you like to? I'll let you take this first.
Mythicals are certainly strange monsters, Yesbox, because for a long time it was sort of unclear did they exist or not. Obviously, from a behind-the-scenes standpoint, they were created as exclusive content for when My Singing Monsters released a version on the PlayStation Vita console. And then for many, many years, they remained as exclusives for that. And we decided to call them Mythicals at that time because from a storyline standpoint, it was like, are they real? Are they not? What's going on with them? And then, of course, we were able to work with our partners at Sony and bring those monsters to the main mobile experience. And now, of course, they're also on PC on the Steam experience as well. Could they ever find their own place in the monster world? I don't really know. Right now, obviously, there are only 2 species discovered at that time, and sort of a haphazard random distribution across the monster world. Obviously, there's Gajoob on Plant Island, and there's Yostrich on Air Island. Definitely one of the least researched, least understood classes of monsters. They're not necessarily monsters that are top of mind these days, what with the discovery of rare magicals and epic ethereals and epic fire monsters, but they shouldn't be forgotten. You're absolutely right. We'll have to devote a little bit more energy to see if we can find out more about those mythical monsters.
We
Interesting
might,
indeed.
you know what? You never know when we might find out more information.
You know what? You never know. You're right, Michael. You never know.
I think to summarize your answer, Matt, we can say that it's still a big mystery.
Very good, Eric. Sweeping in with the puns, with the wordplay. Can always rely on Monster Handler Eric for that.
This is an interesting question from the chat. From Kayna Games, I was wondering, this one's for you probably, Monster Handler Matt. What happens to a monster after it's in a Wublin or a Celestial? Do we know what happens, or is it a mystery?
Well, you know what? I don't know if we want this to be our last question or not, but I will answer this question by revealing something related to this question. So what happens to a monster that gets zapped inside of a Wublin or a Celestial? Well, I can reassure you that at that point it's not actually yet a monster. The egg, which is sort of formatted like a spore, at that point, before it has a chance to be incubated in the nursery, gets converted into electrical energy, which we like to call the spark of life, and that's what's used to either, in the case of Wublins, wake them up, or in the case of Celestials, revive them. So it's not necessarily what happens to the monster, because the monster's not yet formed. It's just sort of what could become a monster if it gets incubated in the nursery. So at that point, it's just sort of an energy conversion from one form to another, and that electrical energy is what brings the Wublins and the Celestials to life. However, and here's where the kicker comes in. What's different about how a Wubbox works is those are fully formed monsters. Those are monsters that have been hatched and sometimes placed on islands that gets boxed inside of a Wubbox. And for a long time, it's been an enduring mystery of what is inside the Wubbox itself, and what became of the monsters that travel inside there. We do know on good authority, though, that the inside of a Wubbox is a very fun place. It's a place, it's like a virtual world. It's a place where just about anything can happen. I've even heard it described as a playground by some monsters that have ventured inside of a Wubbox. So that's sort of interesting. That's sort of interesting to me, the way that they've described it.
A playground, you say? That's very interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I just figured I'd drop that piece of information out there, just because I thought it was related to the question that had been asked.
Thank you very much.
You want to do one more question, Sean?
Yeah, we have time for one more question. Again, sorry that we couldn't get to everybody. Our next question and last question comes in from Duck. Duck.
It's all right, and on you, Duck. What's this last question? Oh my goodness, look at your little avatar. Yes, we can hear you great.
All right. Thank you for having me on. So my question is, so like some of the fire quad and quint element monsters, like for example like Yelmut or like Bisonorus, where exactly like are they in the present day? Because like I don't like. Because they're not like, like on any of the islands, but like, do they still like exist? Because I've heard like some people say that they could be extinct. And
great question. Great question. Thank you, Duck.
Duck, I am happy to put your mind at ease, and that those quad and quint element fire monsters that have not yet made a specific canon appearance in my singing monsters, such as Yelmut, such as Bisonorus, such as Flamox, Edamimi, monsters like that. They do still exist. They have not gone extinct. All species of monsters that existed during the dawn of fire did continue. They did persist. Life found a way. All fire monsters did end up finding refuge in Fire Haven for the period of time from the end of the dawn of fire all the way to the rediscovery of Fire Haven. Now, from a storyline standpoint, all those fire monsters right now are sort of split between Fire Haven and Fire Oasis, the two sort of devoted fire locales in the modern monster world. They're just not added specifically in game, and they're not added in game for a number of different reasons. One is that we did still want some exclusive content in Dawn of Fire that you could only get there, and also from a composition standpoint, from a song standpoint, it may be challenging to add some of those monsters to the existing Haven or Oasis songs. Not to say that they couldn't find their way to those islands someday, but it is a design consideration that we made at the time, picking and choosing which monsters we wanted on the Fire Islands. But I can confirm that no, those fire quads and quints are not extinct, and yes, they carry on. They keep calm and carry on.
It's good to end this on a positive note. I'm very happy to hear that.
Indeed.
Thank you. So yeah, everybody, it's been well over an hour in this very exciting first AMA session with all you amazing monstering fans. Unfortunately, obviously, we weren't able to get to everybody, but I think this went pretty well, and I hope that in the future maybe we get to do something again. Is there anything our monster handlers would like to say before we sign off?
I have something, but I will let Eric speak since he hasn't said much. You got anything to say over there, Eric?
Well, I've just been having such a great time listening to these awesome questions, and of course the awesome answers from Monster Handler Matt, because I, much like everyone else, always learn a little something new whenever I listen to Matt talk. But I do want to just thank the community here. Obviously, this has been a great experience. I think I'm very excited to get to do this again in the future because I think it went awesome. We really appreciate all of your amazing questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did.
Matt?
Yeah, I want to echo that. Eric, it's always an awesome opportunity to connect with the community and to hear your awesome questions. It's obviously very exciting for us to know that you're paying such close attention to the stuff that we're working on here. It's our mission to inspire worlds of creativity, and events like this one, this AMA, really let us know that we're succeeding in that job. One quick plug that I wanted to make, and maybe this is one of the things you wanted to talk about, Monster and Michael, and if so, I apologize. We are still running our community challenge for becoming a follower of our My Singing Monsters, the board game Kickstarter. There's only a few more days left, and we did successfully reach the first rung of our thermometer of 2.5K followers. We're creeping up towards the second one, and I'd love to see if the community could pull together and meet the community challenge of getting us to 10K in time for the cutoff on Monday the 31st. So all that means is that it could be more diamonds for everybody, right? So it's a win-win.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned in the Monster Handlers chat. We'll throw another link in there for anyone who doesn't know where to go to. Sorry, go ahead, Monster Handler Mike.
Yes, I obviously echo the same sentiment. And I just want to thank everybody here for joining us. And, the reason we did this is because we are listening to you guys at any chance that we get. Even if we don't necessarily respond to something on social or something like that, we do see what you guys are saying. And this specifically was a result of our previous Discord adventure that we had about a month ago when we were doing the Discord for the board game, and it was asked about getting involved in a Discord, and after that conversation we kind of made it something that we wanted to try and do. So we're always listening to you guys and trying to better your experience both in game and out of game. And yes, of course, I was going to remind about the contest, but also I was just going to remind about the board game, which is coming on June 1st on Tuesday. And just remind you to check it out. I think it's going to be really good. It is supposed to come out the end of this year, just in time for the holidays. So it'd make a great present for around there. And I know I will be getting a version for myself on day one, so I can get the little monster minifigures and put them on my desk.
Yeah, if anything else, it's very good for collectibles, I've found. It's really exciting seeing everything. All the little physical pieces and stuff are super cute.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool stretch goals that we have in place. So hopefully we can hit some of those and include a lot of cool extra goodies in the game. But yeah.
Well, thank you again, everybody. We're going to be closing this chat right now. I thank you for your questions, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure. Happy monstering.
Happy monstering.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.